Okay, well, good to have a break, don't you think?
Yeah, nice to have a glass of water.
Indeed. Now, when we left, we were talking about working on, not in. And just to pick us up on that, in essence, I mean, you've said you had the realisation, and that's fine. What did you do, though, to get yourself out of it, as it were? Because you said the business couldn't depend on you.
Right.
So what did you do?
Once again, I realised that it was being run by my skill.
Right.
And it was important to impart my skills to the rest of my team.
Right.
Otherwise, Wally would be doing 90% of the work again.
Right.
So, therefore, I took the Gerber thing and once again did the organisational chart, wrote all the little boxes down, and as
see, let me just stop you there.
There you go.
Because what's important is you actually, again, you did it.
Yep.
You see, a lot of people hear it.
Oh, yeah.
But you did it.
Everybody
so
says, why do I need boxes?
Right.
Yeah. Who needs boxes?
You actually wrote and you got the boxes and you...
wrote them down and then said, every business must have at least these. In fact, it can't run without these functions. It must have a boss.
Right.
Who is the boss.
Right.
It must have somebody in charge.
So you've taken, in fact, just on that, you've taken, I know, because one of them has been in the room with us right now, you've actually taken businesses, and we're going to talk more about this in a moment, where you've looked at it and you said, well, there's husband and wife running it, one of them's got to go.
Yes, it's a shame. It's unfortunate you have to think that way, but the reason one of them has to go is because everybody believes that a marriage is an equal partnership, and it is. It's a partnership that depends integrally, wholly and solely on those two people making it together.
Right.
However, in a business, it cannot work that way.
Be one boss.
Has to be one boss.
Okay, so then you
because you see what happens, Paul, if you and I are partners in something and we both disagree on an important issue, and it happens, not from day to day, but from week to week, things happen.
Right.
You feel passionately about something.
Right.
And I feel just as passionately about a variation of it. It doesn't have to be the opposite, but it's a variation.
Right.
But your view's not the same as mine.
Right.
If you get your way, who hurts?
Right.
I hurt.
Right.
If I get my way, who hurts?
Right.
You hurt.
Right.
The problem is, a week or two down the track, when something else comes up, I come to you and I say, but Paul, I let you have so-and-so, why don't you let me have such and such? It then becomes an emotional decision.
Right.
It's not a business decision, is it?
Right. I got you. Okay.
That's
So one boss, organisational chart.
Look, organisational chart.
Even though you might be the only person, you've still got to do the organisational chart.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But what we said before was this. It happens that one person does many, many things because it's usually a one-man business. That's how they start off.
Right.
The minute you realise you have a one-man business, you have to realise you have a job.
Right. Okay.
And that ain't a business.
Right.
Most people in business lose money.
Right.
They work 60, 70 hours a week.
Right.
Really, don't they?
Right.
And they say, oh, sweat equity, you know, I'm putting all this equity, I'm building a business, I'm building...
No, they're not. Doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're working themselves into the grave.
Right.
Because they will never, ever have anybody else doing it.
Right.
They think that they can't afford to. In that case, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have gone into business.
Interesting point.
Fact of life. If you can't afford to exist and survive for 3 or 4 or 5 months and pay somebody's wages to do the things that release you to do the more important things, i.e. the planning of what eventually should be a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Right.
Doesn't matter if it's a corner shop, but if you can't afford to hire somebody, and if you don't have people skills to manage them and to train them to run it and do it your way, you cannot afford to be in business. You've got to get out. You are wasting oxygen. You're wasting the oxygen of business. Because there is somebody out there who wants to go in business, but you've rented his shop. Really, it's a fact. So therefore, I realised that...
so these are have-tos. I mean, these are not desirable.
No, these are musts.
Okay.
And these are the things that business people don't realise.
Okay.
So I then realised that you've got to structure that business the right way.
Right.
I couldn't afford to have all the things that I wanted, one thing at a time.
Right.
Sit down and itemise, write the little boxes out, who does what, who does this, who does that, and at the same time implement the things that make the business grow.
Right.
Be able to detach the business from a job.
Right.
When I started going to work in the morning, I went to work to run a business. I didn't go to work to do the things that the business did.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I didn't go to work to stand at the counter and sell budgies to people or do this and answer all the phones myself. I didn't go to work for that reason. I went to work to manage a business.
Right.
I realised then, 2 or 3 years ago, that my function was to develop systems that made things easy for my people to cope with.
Okay.
I didn't have to have brilliant people working for me, as long as I taught them to do things in a simple way.
Right.
So therefore I realised that my function was to be a manager.
Right.
To implement systems, put systems into place,
Yeah.
to monitor and enforce the adherence to those systems.
Exactly.
That's what my job was. And once I realised that the function of the manager was to put systems into place, monitor and enforce adherence to the systems, my life was easy.
Right.
I was free.
Right.
All I had to do was walk through the place. And I go, zap, with my eyes, I knew what system wasn't being followed.
Right.
It was that easy.
Working on, not in.
Working on the business. But you see, I also realised, once again, getting back to the marketing of it, there are so many things that are involved. There are so many facets. And the stupid part about little businesses is they very rarely take the advice of outsiders.
Right.
Because they run the business themselves, they try and keep it as a family business.
Right.
They don't grow. Because the only skills they have to draw on
Are the skills they have.
are the skills within the family.
Right. Right.
But you see, there are times when you need financial expert advice.
Right.
What do? You look for a cheap accountant. You look for a cheap this, you look for a cheap that. Right. Or you get your wife to do the books. Why? Because she went to Form 3 accounting. She knows, you know what I mean?
I think people...
All the wrong reasons.
People watching us now, Wally, be going, oh, I can relate to that, I can relate to that. Exactly.
So I then started to think in a different way.
Right.
I started to think running a business,
Okay.
running a business.
Okay.
And that's what it is.
And of course you were, I know, spectacularly successful
Thank
at
you.
being able to do
Thank
that,
you.
in the sense that you got yourself almost out of it, in the sense that you were then able, as you said before to me privately, you said, so I fell into, I think were your words,
Yeah.
talking with other businesses now. Talk about
Well-
that, because that's an important aspect of what you did.
Once again, once I realised that I could teach my people to do what I did, and the next tough transition was this, Paul, and I think it's important to get this over. We all believe we're very good at what we do.
Right.
And we are, because had we not had that belief, we wouldn't have invested our $10 life savings and our $2,000 bank card limit
In the budgie shop.
and the experience with the budgie. We wouldn't have invested this to make a living out of it.
Right.
One of the difficult things to realise was this. I could live with things being done 80% as well as what I did them myself than have to see them done 100%
Okay.
and have to do them all myself.
Okay. Okay.
And this is the difficulty that we have with everybody out there.
Okay.
You see something done and you say, no, let me do that. Yeah, he can't do it properly. It's not his fault. It's
Right.
not her fault. It's my fault.
Because of the training and the systems.
Training in the system.
Or lack of, in that case.
And I should be prepared to accept 80%. I'll tell you why. Because you see, if you have 10 people working for you, you have to do 80% of 10 other people's jobs.
Right.
Or 100% if you want to do them yourself.
Right.
It is much better to allow them to do 80% as good as you, tickle them up a little bit and train them up, but at the same time, don't have the problem of overloading yourself.
Right.
And people invariably overload themselves.
Right.
Once again, they don't trust their people enough to be happy with a good standard.
Right. So in other words, it's very easy to get sucked back into working in rather than working on.
The minute I walk through my store, everybody says, oh, Wally, I haven't seen you for ages. Where you been? Listen, I was in here last week and I bought... Oops. How do you buy out of that one? I know that becomes a 5 or 10 minute conversation.
Right.
But as soon as I stand there, 10 other people walk in and stand in line.
Right.
Now, it's not that I don't go through the place anymore.
Right.
I listen to the problem. I say, oh, right. Well, Andrew's the man in charge of that.
Go see him.
Bingo.
Right.
Let me introduce you. Know Andrew? Oh, look, Andrew, come here. This man, da-da-da-da-da-da, and immediately buy out of it nicely.
Good.
You have to be vigilant all the time.
Okay.
Because unless you're that, you start buying the problem. But
Yeah.
getting back to the 80% thing, be happy with having it done almost as well as you can do it yourself. Because that frees you for the very important things.
Yeah.
And if you can free 80% of your day, what does that do to you?
Yes, exactly.
Remember when I said I saw the Gerber thing and I said, well, I'll put a date on it?
Right.
Once that happened, the change was spectacular.
Right.
I then started saying no to a lot of things. No, sorry, let him handle it. No, sorry, let her handle it.
Right.
And it became that way. And my people grew exponentially within weeks, months.
That's another amazing thing, isn't it?
Oh,
One program we do is where someone says, I think it's a guy called Ralph Thayer, says people love to excel. Isn't that true?
my people just exploded with
Wonderful.
with the tremendous. I think the buzzword was empowerment at that time.
Yeah.
But no, look, they took it and ran with it. You know, I had people coming in after hours to finish things off because they realised the importance of it.
Right.
Whereas in the past,
And they owned it too, I guess.
They owned it. In the past, it was Wally will do it.
Yes.
Leave it for Wally or leave it for somebody else.
Yes.
But now...
And Wally would have done it. all that time.
Sure. Wally was doing it till midnight every night. That's the way it happened.
Exactly.
So when my business started to grow, people realised there's this short little cute fat bloke driving around a Lambo saying, what do you do?
Okay. So people said, you know, what are you doing? And
I had somebody...
You were free enough now to...
Yeah, sure. I had somebody come to me and say, Wally, I've seen your Yellow Pages ad or something. Can you write me an ad? And I said, look, I'll critique what you do, but I'm not going to write it for you.
Good.
Right? So somebody would fax me an ad and I'd write it. A week or 2 or 3 weeks later, I'd see the guy or the girl or whatever and say, how was that thing? Oh, listen, yeah, look, here's what I finished up with. And they'd fax it back and it'd be back to what they did.
Right.
And I'd say, well, hang on a minute, what'd you ask me? Oh, yeah, but, you know, I didn't want to use this and your ideas were good, Wal, but. And I'm saying, this is an insult. This is not fair.
Okay.
You bastard, I'm going to charge you next time.
Right. Okay. So
you pay for it,
giving
you'll appreciate it.
Wonderful. People do not value that which they get for free.
That's
wonderful.
right.
Wonderful.
So next time somebody asked me for something like that, I said, yeah,
Isn't
look,
that interesting?
look, gladly do it for you, but let me tell you my fees.
Right up front.
Right up front, yep.
Good. So now you've got commitment.
Yep, $150 an hour. What?
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Don't look at what you pay for it, look at what you get for it.
Okay.
Look at the end result. Who cares if I charge you $5,000 but it returns you 50?
Right.
Or 5,500 or whatever.
Right.
In other words, that was the logic. But essentially what I did is I made people value what I gave them.
Okay, exactly. Very important point.
So I had somebody come to me in an industry and they said, Wally, will you do this for us? I said, yep, this is how it'll happen. And they said, well, can you teach us a bit more? Because yours is working. How can we make ours work? I said, well, listen, I've got plenty of time on my hands. Why don't you employ me as a consultant?
Right.
And I'll give you, I guarantee, a certain number of hours per month.
Huh?
And I'll play around with it and this is what I'll do. Well, I took this little business from so many dollars a year to so many dollars a year.
And I know the figures and it was spectacular. We won't say them on tape, but I know it was spectacular.
Right. Well, it did well, and I still do some consulting work for them, not as much as I used to, but the fee is still the same because that was the deal, and they're very happy to pay it, and it's the way it goes. But I've started to teach them to work on their businesses rather than in their businesses.
And again,
they then referred somebody else,
right.
And the referrals kept on going.
Right.
Within 2 months, I had a marketing company. All of a sudden, I had 3 or 4 people working in an office somewhere. I only see them once every 2 or 3 weeks.
So that grew almost...
yeah, once again, just taught people to do what I do.
But the things that you were telling them were, again, simple things, one at a time. Blah, blah, blah.
One little thing at a time. Let's implement one thing. Let's run with it. But yet I come across so many people who have libraries full of books and videos and seminars. They're seminar junkies, they're book junkies, they're information overload junkies, and every one of those books has got hundreds of good ideas in it.
Isn't that amazing?
In fact, I went to a little meeting the other night and a guy said, oh, look, there's this latest book on so-and-so, so-and-so. He says, you want a copy of it, you go out and it's in such and such a place. They've got them, they're 1995. And I said, Tell me about the one you read last week.
Or what you did as a result of the
Tell me about the one you read last week. Oh, hang on a minute, it was so-and-so. Good. What have you got out of that?
Yes.
What are you putting into place out of that?
Yes.
And you can go back, and this is almost, it's a sorry trail.
Yes, it is. So let's just review where we've been in this little segment. We've talked about the importance of working on, not in, and applying the systems. The word I loved you using was about how the team explodes. Into
Unbelievably.
Right, so we learned about that. Then we've learned about you being free enough, or the 80% thing was important, being free enough then to start advising other businesses.
Sure.
I don't know about you, I'm going to have another glass of water.
Go.
When we come back, we might talk about some of those things and then bring people right up to date with now. Is that okay with you? Wonderful. See you soon.